everybody, and welcome to another Top 10 edition of Magic Minds, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMikes_54P, that's 54Paul, for 10% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. Tell them we sent you, we appreciate it. I'm Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? This set had way too many cards to talk about. That's all I know. So this is going to be an interesting show.
Ruben Bresser, the internet Ruben Bresser.
Ludicrous amounts of cards, but we'll try our best to talk about what's going on here. I don't know anything about the lore, so I'm going to need some help from whoever knows anything, if any of you are on that level.
I know about like parts of 3 or 4 of them. That's about the best I can give you.
I played a lot of 7, but I never played enough of like the old school stuff, which I did play the old school stuff, but I never played enough to like really remember much of the characters beyond maybe some of the names that I saw and noticed or whatever.
You know what? We're live. Chat, you help us out. Like if you play sense or not, you let us know on cards.
Matt Adams and Twitch, let's go. Drop what you know so you can help us out. All right, that said, we begin with our choice, the top comment from our last top 10 in the segment we call Honorable Mention, where Ruben will tell us who was the most eloquent and let us know what card we did not choose as one of our top 10 Dragons or Tarkir Dragonstorm cards. Ruben?
Well, we had some quite robust discussion in our last comment section, but I decided to go with Lucidity1, who I wanted to have a little bit of discussion about this because I thought it was an interesting note that they left. There are 3 more cards that slot right away into my Dragon EDH deck, and they just make me happy. Draco Genesis, Call the Spirit Dragon, and Stormscale Scion. I'll pay 8 once and never pay for a dragon for the rest of the game. That one, when it happens, will make my inner Timmy ecstatic. All my dragons gain indestructible, grow each turn, and can win me the game. That card's ridiculous. Not to mention Tiamat can be your commander, but the real pick is Stormscale Scion. It's bonkers, and we all know why. Now, I have gotten to play against somebody who got to go off with a Draco Genesis turn recently on Gavin's stream, recently on the OG Commander channel, and they went Draco Genesis, spell, Stormscale Scion, which was crazy. It was huge. Fortunately, I had an austere command to be able to clear it away, but something like 80 power in one turn.
Yeah, I'm a fan, obviously a fan of dragons. But the thing is, I think it's one of those things where the only reason they didn't make my list was just because they're kind of only playable in a very particular type of deck in Commander. But when they go off, my God, do they go off. Like it's gonna be big business when they happen.
Yeah, for sure. Evan, you're muted.
Excuse me. For those who don't know, who are listening, Stormscale Scion is a 2-red, 4 generic mana, 4/4 mythic creature dragon. It has flying. Other dragons you control get +1/+1, and it's got Storm. Because reasons, when you cast the spell, you copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. Copies become tokens. Mother of God, this thing gets ridiculous. And this is exactly the kind of ridiculous, over-the-top mythic that makes players happy. It's not winning Pro Tours. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to do awesome stuff on your kitchen table and in your Commander games online, and that's exactly what it does. And that's fantastic. I love it.
Yep. I'm glad you pointed that out, because even probably on some of our lists of stuff we picked today, just because it's on somebody's top 10 or somebody's favorite card doesn't mean it has to be the most efficient, craziest top tier, A tier, whatever deck type card. Sometimes they're just fun Magic cards. Sometimes they fit somebody's favorite Commander deck. Sometimes it's going to be a thing you just hop onto Arena with and build a deck, and you're still able to ladder up, even though you'd never play it in a tournament, right? There's room for all types of cards.
Absolutely. So thank you to Lucidity1 for being a part of the show. We appreciate it. Leave your comments below for what your honorable mention is that we did not include in our top 10 lists, and we might select you to call out in our next top 10. Speaking of cards, as we roll into our number 10, I'll go ahead and take number 10 because I think it is a super rad card. And this is one of those cards where I was like, I've been looking through the set. Obviously, I've been, watching spoilers as they've been coming out, and oh my God, this big rare and this huge, thing, and this uncommon and this rare and this mythic and so on. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I was reading through all the cards, and I came to this one card and I was like, damn, this card is good. I was like, this card, I haven't heard anyone literally mention this one time. I've heard not a blip on it, but I'm a man who can play a control deck. All right, I played control decks. I played mono white decks. I played white blue decks. I played Drago, Jaceco, Kalgo. I played all the things, and I'm telling you, white Auracite looks like a very, very playable card to me. This is a 2 white, 2 generic mana common artifact. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until this artifact leaves the battlefield, so it's an Oblivion Ring, and it taps to add a white mana. So for 4 mana, you tap out, you get rid of their best thing, and now on your next turn, you're going to have 6 mana total, and that's plenty of mana to do a lot of serious business in the control deck. And to have multiples to just Oblivion Ring multiple things, and they're all mana rocks, that's awesome. Again, it's not the flashiest card you're ever going to see, but damn if it doesn't look playable as hell.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. It's one of the ones I looked at and thought, okay, we already have, I don't know, 5 different versions of Oblivion Rings in standard, but we don't have one that makes mana. All right.
Exactly.
So,
Right.
and that fills a different hole where you're talking about trying to build these true control decks that need to spend all this extra mana. And, so it might have a home, actually. It might look a little weird to people, but I could see this getting some play.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get white ramp without green almost ever.
Right.
This one having an effect the turn it comes in and also allowing you, like, this could serve a very similar role to a Solemn Simulacrum or when you do your 2/4/6 ramping in your green-white giant deck, if you ever want to get to a 6-drop in your ramp deck, you could do worse than this card.
100%. So, like, I thought I was just, this is one of those cards I was reading. I was like, wait a minute, it's an Oblivion Ring? It taps for mana? What? This card seems awesome. I would love to have this in every control deck ever. So here we are. It's my number 10, and that's why. Ruben, what you got?
I love that. That's a great pick. My number 10 is a pretty, I think, fairly innocuous card, but it does something that's very specific, and that is that it's a 1-drop mana ramp creature in red, which rarely, if ever, happens, and that is Freya Crescent. Freya Crescent is a 1-mana 1/1 in red that says jump during your turn. Freya Crescent has flying because it's a rat knight, and so it can gain flying. But it says tap out a red, spend this mana only to cast an equipment spell or activate an equip ability. If equipment are going to be powerful in the new standard, this card is very likely to be part of that equation. Not only because it lets you play your Buster Sword a turn early, or your 3-drop and 4-drop equipment early, but also because it gains flying as it attacks.
Yeah, I like this card, and it almost made my list just for being kind of under the radar a little bit, because I don't think people realize, like, having a creature that can fly every turn that you can load equipment up onto, especially with the equipment in this set that are, doing a ton of extra things, especially if you connect with them, that could be pretty big. I mean, just you can't block it. Here it comes, and it's like a 5 power plus bonuses. Like, this card, I'm with you. I think if you're gonna play equipment, at least 2 or 3 of these are probably gonna be in the list.
I mean, yeah, this sounds like an auto 4-up to me because, your nut draw is turn 1 this, turn 2 Buster Sword, right? And then turn 3 you get in with Evasion. Like, that's a nut draw if I've ever heard one. And so, like, if it connects, it's going to be really difficult to lose that game, right? And I love that. Good, like, solid role players, particularly in the 1-drop roles, are so tough because 1-drops, they can't be too good, but if they're too crappy, they won't even make your draft deck, So
yeah, but this
is a great
card
balance.
Is really excellent at this and Llanowar Elves are going to be the center of your red-green equipment strategy.
Oh man, that's going to be so much fun. Power Dragon, what's number 10?
This is the first time I think my number 10 has been higher on somebody else's list, so I get to talk about that one later.
Oh, well, in that case, go ahead and crack off your number 9.
Yes, we will do that. And this one made my list because it fits the very popular aristocrats type decks, but also in standard right now, there's a lot of people that like sacrificing stuff to play their Raise the Past. And we're going to talk about Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier. 2 and a black for a 3/3 human avatar soldier, legendary, obviously. But when it enters or attacks, you sacrifice another creature. If you do, you draw a card. And then whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses a life, you gain a life, which we've seen on ability cards before. And if it's the 4th time this happens on a turn, you get to transform it. Now, the reality is, before we even talk about the transform part, I don't think you're going to transform this all that often, but the front side alone is still pretty good, right? You stack a token or something that gives you treasure or whatever when it dies, and you get a bonus card,
Mhm.
and you've drained your opponent for one before you've even done anything, and you still have a 3/3 creature. So, like, totally down with that. But then the backside is a big 5/5 flying Sephiroth one-winged angel, which is super crazy because as it transforms, you get an emblem that just says you always have the ability of when
Yeah.
a creature dies, your opponent loses one, you gain one. And then when it attacks, you can sacrifice any number of creatures to draw that many cards, which is wild because there's so many things, especially like doll maker shop, things like that, Anim Pakal, whatever, that all these things just make extra tokens that can result in a crap ton of cards. But realistically, I think it's mostly about the front side of this card more often than not.
Hmm. Well, I think, ultimately, and when it attacks, you can only sacrifice other creatures. I don't know if that matters much. You're not going to sacrifice Sephiroth anyway. But,
Yeah.
the prices right now as we record this are absolutely ridiculous. $50 plus
Oh,
for this card
absolutely. Insane.
is ridiculous and should not be paid at this point. But what I would say is that Wizards knows this is one of the best known, most beloved characters
Hmm.
in all of Final Fantasy, and it's one of the primary mythics they showed off first thing. This card don't suck. I don't, whether you think it don't suck, I assure you it don't suck. If anything, I'm very, very glad you included your list. I was actually hoping for that because, again, it's priced to move. It's going to start doing wacky stuff. As soon as it enters and it attacks, you keep getting these triggers. Anything that makes you sacrifice is part of a cost. Anything you can do to do that. I mean, triggering force, like, sort of, this is one of those, like, it sounds like a lot, but we make a lot of tokens these days, and
That's also true.
we can
Yeah.
sack them pretty easily. And there's lots of creatures these, look, what, 2 or 3 now that you can sack a creature and not have to pay anything to do so. Like, this guy's been kind of primed in the background, and I wouldn't be surprised if this turns out to be one of the absolute best cards of the set.
Yeah, the raise the pass decks are already annoying when you're playing best of one in arena, and they just got one more tool to help them do what they're trying to do.
Right.
Oakley dokley. Well, in that case, let's move on here. Back to number 9. Ruben, what's your number 9?
My number 9. Can anybody guess what my number 9 is?
Is it the 9 mana summon guy?
It's the
Okay.
9 mana 9/9, and it's
Oh.
Summon Bahamut. Summon Bahamut is a 9 mana 9/9 enchantment creature saga dragon, which is
God,
crazy.
that's crazy.
Chapter 1 and 2, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Chapter 3, draw 2 cards. And Chapter 4, Mega Flare, an ability so powerful that it has a flavor name. This creature deals damage equal to the total mana value of other permanents you control to each opponent. I mean, obviously that's a crazy creature. The fact that it's also an enchantment probably has some value, but the very first thing we get to do with it is destroy a non-land permanent. It gives us some card advantage later. It is itself a win condition, even on top of being a 9/9 flyer. If you're able to flicker it or you're able to mess around with counters on it in some way, you're getting even more value. But it's already just a really good reanimator target, a really good ramp creature, and a really good top end.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being even for reanimator decks because one of the things, obviously you still have like your Atraxas of the world or whatever, which are great targets, but something like this is good because not only do you get your 9/9, you also get rid of another threat, right? And then you get rid of a threat the next turn. And now you've got the thing and you've got extra cards setting yourself up for later. So I like those options. If there's any way you could trick this into play with, say, like Kona, what is it? Beastie Friend or whatever that
Yeah.
card is, like that could be kind of crazy. Like there's some fun stuff you could do with this. And the fact that it gets to kill something for 2 turns, like, is pretty damn strong.
Yeah, and the ability, I think the one that they're mentioning in chat here is for Glissa Sunslayer. Is that even still
Yeah.
legal and standard? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can remove up to 3 counters from one permanent. Just be like, woo,
Pretty good.
blow
That's
up
not
Yeah.
the
bad.
world.
just keep killing things.
Don't hate that.
Absolutely. I think that's funny. But either way, this card is just it can go in like every deck, right? Like Commander, this goes in all the Commander decks. Do you make a bunch of mana? How about a 9/9 on top of your curve that destroys stuff when it's
My elf deck
battlefield?
is thinking about playing one of them. So.
Exactly. It's like,
Like-
I would be surprised if this starts to see like just some weird play. It showed up in things like Legacy Elf Ball and things. It's just a way to make a really scary threat. It does a bunch of really weird, stupid things. It's drawing you cards, it's destroying threats.
Yeah.
That's great, and I love
I mean, I very easily could have put 3 or 4 of the summons
Yeah.
on my list. This is the one that I chose. But there are so many, and this one in particular goes in everything because it doesn't have a color identity. So you can put it in every commander deck. You can put it in every reanimator deck, every ramp deck. Incredibly powerful.
So for my number 9, I was looking through the set, and particularly I started looking at the Chocos, right? The Chocobo stuff, and I was just like, dude, this is cool. They gave you about, I don't know, I think it's maybe 10 cards or so, something like that sort of references them or talks about them. And they all do things that basically have landfall to give them +1/+0, and you're making 2/2s, and that's cute and all. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, and there's the cool mythic and whatnot, and that's great. I was like, but what's the payoff? What is our, like, this is going to show like the power of it's more than I just made a bunch of 2/2s. And I was looking through and I was like, oh snap, Barts and Boko, ladies and gentlemen, is priced to move, as they say. This card is super dope. You can on the screen right now. This card is sweet. It's 2 green, 3 generic mana, but you're not going to be paying that. 5 mana technically for a 4/3 rare legendary human bird. Okay, why? Because it's Bart's Red and Boko. It has affinity for birds. So it costs 1 less for each bird you control. You're going to be making chocobos. All right. So this thing's going to cost 3 mana, probably max. More of the time, probably 2 mana. Okay, cool. Here's the magical phrase. When it enters, each other bird you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. Now let's imagine, all right, we're in the territory. We got maybe 2 2/2s out there. Let's say 2/2s. You're played a land, right? That's going to give them all +1/+0. So that's 6 damage to go around. And then this guy comes in, you deal 6 damage where you want. You got more tokens, you've been copying them with like your talents or whatever, you're going to deal even more damage. Like you're going to almost wipe their board when this guy shows up. And I was like, every bird gets to deal all of its damage wherever you want, however you want. That breaks stalemates. That gets rid of threats. It sounds pretty dope to me.
And understand that is not a fight effect. That is just a bite effect. So like they just get to deal damage and don't get anything in return.
That's right.
Yeah.
Take it.
Also, I do have one beef about chocobos though in this set that I gotta air out.
Uh-oh.
That even on this card, we have a character riding a chocobo. Yet we have no chocobos that have saddle.
Ooh, interesting.
Like, how did that happen? We reference like getting the golden chocobo and the chocobo racing, and we have a character riding a chocobo, but we didn't get any with saddle mechanic. That doesn't make any sense to me.
That's a little bit of a miss. I can see how that's a miss. I mean, this card is very good in a deck that is designed to take advantage of it. Roaming Throne comes to mind. I mean, there are lots of great when this enters, name a creature type kind of effects like Herald's Horn and Metallic Mimic, Automaton. That's the Lord. We've got the vehicle that does the same thing. So there's lots of cool stuff to interact with this card. Turn 1 bird isn't a horrifically difficult thing to pull off in standard. I think we've got at least 1, maybe 2 in the set. And then turn 2 bird, certainly there's a bunch of 2 mana birds that we can play to get this guy out on turn 3 and immediately trigger its effect, which by the way is, even if you're only getting like a single shock out of it, you're still ending up with a 4/3. You're still ending up with a big body that was able to come in early. We all know the power of Convoke, and so having affinity for birds is also quite helpful.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how to say SAZH, Shaj. Anyway, SAZH's Chocobo is the 1 mana green drop for an 0/1 that has landfall, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So there's where you start, and you just keep on going, and you just scale on up. I love it. I think it's great. And
Mockingbird is still in standard.
Sure. There you go. Love it. I love it. All right, so let's move on here to number 8. I'll go ahead and get mine sort of out of the way, as it were, because I spoke about this a little bit on the show, and by a little bit I mean a lot of it, because I think this card's really rad, and I think it's really silly, and it's got numbers on it that I just don't normally see on cards that do what it does. And it's just like, I remember the first time I read Collect a Company, and I was like, 7? You look at 7 cards? Nothing up to that point in Magic. I'm sure I'm wrong in some fashion because I always, there's always some case. But until that point, it'd been a long time since I said look at 7 cards and do something with them, particularly with creatures and things. Well, when I took a look at the Water Crystal, and I was like, wait a minute, they mill +4? +4 is a lot of cards. Like, I know it don't sound like much, I guess. And, we're used to milling for 2. We even got to mill for 3 after a while. Milling +4, okay, all right. 2 blue, 2 generic mana. The Water Crystal is a rare legendary artifact. And it says blue spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast. Let's go. If an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill that many cards +4 instead. +4. That's a lot. And for 2 blue, 4 generic mana, tap : each opponent mills cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. That's cool. That's great. You're definitely in the casual land of that. For me, I'm a man who plays the mill deck in Historic. I'm that guy, all right? I'm sorry I'm that guy, but I'm not sorry because this is what I play. I play Mesmeric Orb, and then I play this on turn 4, and you literally can start counting how many spells you get to resolve before the game's over. And I think that's brilliant. I really think that's fantastic. And it sounds awesome, and if it sucks, I'm okay with that, but I just think this card's rad, and I love it.
I think that's the actual play, right? Is you're trying to get this out with the Mesmeric Orb.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if you have that, it's awesome. Like it's just ridiculous.
It's crazy.
If you don't have that, then it's kind of like, it's all right, but it's still making all your other spells cheaper, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that Mesmeric Orb is the big selling point of this card, not only because you can proactively play out Mesmeric Orb before you play the Water Crystal, but also because each of the Mesmeric Orb triggers are individual. So each of those 1s becomes 5s, and that's going to end a game very, very quickly. So I think that even if you're not playing a dedicated mill deck, if you're playing a Mesmeric Orb Water Crystal control deck, like that can be a fine win condition in and of itself. Like you don't even need to play Maddening Cacophony or any of the other Tome Scour kind of cards. You can just play those things, and that can be your 1 win condition.
Yeah, it's one of the things where I found a mill deck in Historic, and I'm like, this don't work, right? This is ridiculous. No, you can win on turn 4 with mill. You really can, and this is a way to help you continue to do that on turn 4.
Altar of the Brood is another one that comes to mind as something that is interesting to take advantage of here because that mills 1 card, but that bounces it up to 5. I also need to know what the ruling is with this card on Grindstone. Because Grindstone says that you put the top 2 cards into the graveyard. If those cards share at least 1 color, you repeat the process. Does that mean that you mill 6? And if 2 of those cards share a color, you repeat?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's worth that's worth my time and attention.
Because the updated wording on Grindstone does say specifically mills 2.
Yeah. Mill 2 cards, which becomes mill 6.
Becomes
If 2 of them share a color, okay, I think that mills somebody out.
Yeah,
so, so there's some interesting stuff that can be done with this card.
Yeah, I'm just listen. I've been around Magic a long time, and when I see those weird numbers, I'm like, bruh, that's not normal numbers. Those are some scary numbers. We'll see if anything happens. But Ruben, what's number 8?
My number 8 is I've already invoked the name Primeval Titan as it referred to one of the cards on that Evan wanted to talk about. But did you know that there's Primeval Titan in the set? Sort of, not really. It's Primeval Titan at home, but we haven't had anything even remotely close to a Primetime or a Golos in Standard for quite a bit. But now we get Gladiolus Anacyitia. Gladiolus Anacyitia is a 6-mana 6/6 human warrior for 4 generic red-green legendary creature. And when that person enters, you search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. We love to see it.
We do.
And it also has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, another target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until the end of the turn. So I mean, this is the top of our 2-4-6 ramp, right? This is what we want to. We want to go turn 2, rampant growth, turn 3, solemn simulacrum, turn 4, primeval titan. We can kind of do that. We've got the 1/3 plant in this set, and then we've got that 4 mana ramp. There's a bunch of 4 mana ramp cards in this in standard, and then we could play this as our top end and go get our one of really good utility land or some sort of beneficial late game land that we really want. So I think that this card is going to be a focal point of a red-green ramp deck, or a red-green-blue ramp deck, as we've often seen in the past, or perhaps red-green-white, something like that. And I'd be excited to see where this goes, because I think that this has a chance to be the top end, a 6-drop that sees a lot of play in standard.
It's the type of card that, for me, even if it like lurks in the background of a format, it's always going to make you check the lands in that next set, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's something that's a good utility land or removes a creature or does this other thing, like you're always going to look at that now and just kind of have this card waiting in the weeds till you find the right build that wants those lands into play. And this card is another way to go tutor those.
Yeah, it's tough to kind of at least for me, I remember back when when the Titans came out, I didn't think Primeval Titan was that good. I was like, you go find lands, okay, what's how good is that? Ugh. Look,
Right.
just like the numbers on the mill card were weird, the number of years since they've given us this ability on a giant monster also has to get those like senses tingling, because there's a reason. I know it sounds a little silly, but just like like Power Dragon mentioned, every land from now on till this thing leaves standard, and then from thereafter it was, well, there's Gladiolus, and then there's Prime Time, and it's Prime Time at home, but Prime Time was insane. So Prime Time at home might be just damn fine.
Yeah. I mean, the last time we got Prime Time at home, it was Sylvan Primordial, and that card is still banned in Commander. So, bad Dark Confidants can still see play. Bad Mind Stones can still see play. Bad Prime Times, I don't think a bad Prime Time hasn't seen play. Big 6/6s that go and get you any land, big creatures that go and get any land out of your deck, that's worth your time.
It's good stuff. Power Dragon, what's number 8?
For my number 8, I tried to find a card that could slot in somewhere in standard for something that was missing and maybe makes another deck viable. And I landed on Dion Bahamut's Dominant. It's 3 and a white for a 3/3 human noble knight. During your turn, Dion and other knights you control have flying, which is an awesome line of text. And when it enters, you also get a 2/2 white knight creature token, just because. And then you can pay 4 whites and exile this card, return it transformed as a sorcery into a big 5/5 flying creature that's Bahamut, Warden of Light. And then on chapters 1 and 2, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Other creature, I should say. This card doesn't get one. But they also gain flying until end of turn, so they maintain flying, basically. And then on chapter 3, destroy target permanent. And then you exile this, comes back into play, you make another token, do it all over again. I can't imagine you're going to get to chapter 3 very often. Like, if you haven't killed your opponent with flying 3/3s, 4/4s, whatever by then, it's going to be a little bit surprising. But the fact that it's a 4 mana 3/3 that also gets you a 2/2 if nothing else happens, which is nice, so it replaces itself. You still have something left behind if they have a kill spell. But even for a turn, we've run into situations where there's stuff for humans in a couple of different varieties, but not much for actual knights. And some of the knights we have right now are pretty good, especially when they're protection from black, protection from white, and those are the main types of removal right now. So maybe with this card, knights could be a little more of a thing.
Yeah. 12 knights in this set, several more playable knights already in standard. You get 5 power for 4 mana spread across 2 bodies, so even if it dies to Doomblade immediately, you've still got a little bit of value left in play. And if it sits around, then you're attacking for 5 the next turn. Much less the fact that you have a little bit of a mana sink later in the game if you've got nothing else better to do. So pretty powerful card, and I would not be surprised if this thing saw some amount of play.
Yeah, this is a fantastic card because, ultimately you have like Virtue of Loyalty still exists, which is great. Caretaker's talent is right there. Like,
Sure.
this just makes a token.
Sure.
5/5, power and toughness out of 4 mana over 2 bodies. One of them could be drawing you a card for that. Like, there's plenty of really sweet knights that are still like Inti, Seneschal of the Sun.
Mhm.
That card is awesome.
Oh, that's a knight?
And that's a human knight. And that
Very
boy
cool.
is very dope. So there's some really cool stuff you could be doing early on.
The two I was thinking, there's Knight of Malice and I was the other Knight of Hope, maybe. But they're 2/2s that get larger if the opposite color is in play. And they're protection from white, protection from black.
Yeah, there's some really. I'm just looking through some options like that. Werefox Bodyguard that has flash and
right.
exiles a creature. That's an Elf Fox Knight.
Elf Fox Knight. Yeah,
it sure is. So like, there's some cool options.
There's
out
a couple. There's a red white knight aggro deck that's out here. I'm seeing Summon Brynhilder is probably pretty good. Alderheart Steiner is probably fine in this deck. So yeah, there's room for Dion.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, super neat, super cool. I love it. And if there's gonna be like a weird equipment type deck, Danitha New Benalia's Light back from
original Daminaria.
The 4/4 lifelink vigilance. First strike.
She's from Aftermath. She's from Martian Aftermath. Goodness. But vigilance, trample, lifelink. During each of your turns, you may cast an aura equipment spell from your graveyard. Also a human knight.
See, I was thinking of the big Danitha, the 5 mana 4/4,
and that definitely
human
is out
knight
there too.
First strike, vigilance, lifelink, and it returns the one from the battlefield attached. I think something like that.
Yeah, Danitha Benalia's Hope, love it. Yeah, man. There's pieces, man. This card is definitely really, really cool, and I'm glad you called it out. All right, let's move on here to number 7. Ruben, what's number 7?
My number 7. I'm not totally sold on it, but I think it's worth discussing. And so I'm willing to be swayed in one direction or another. I also just like how the card is written. It makes me happy. And that card is Memories Returning. Memories Returning is 2 generic blue for a sorcery with flashback of 7 blue. I don't imagine we're ever doing that, but that's okay. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Put one of them in your hand, then choose an opponent. They put one on the bottom of your library. Then you put one in your hand. Then they put one on the bottom of your library. Put the other in your hand. That just makes me happy. That's the way that it's written. It's not a factor. I mean, this is a factor fiction, right? It's 5 cards, but you guaranteed get 3 of them, and you guaranteed get the one you want. And so I think there's probably a space for this in some sort of control deck at some point in its life cycle.
Yeah, I was looking at this card for a while, and like at its bare minimum, you're paying for, look at the top 5 cards, put one of them into your hand, right? Because you're going to get like the best of the 5. But then you also get just 2 bonus cards, even if they're just lands. Like you're probably playing some control type deck with this card anyway. So you want lands anyway, at the very least. So it's like you get your best card, I'm assuming at least 1 land and something else. So like that seems fine for 4 mana. And then it has flashback just because late in the game.
Yeah, and I mean, that flashback to me sort of says like this is going to be a part of a control shell of some nature, because for 4 mana you get the best spell, the 3rd best card, and the 5th best card every time. And if your opponent's bad, you could be getting the 2 best cards and the 4th best card or whatever.
Well,
like, the magic of factor fiction.
This is the type of card that brings the mind games with it too, right? Like, do you take a certain card trying to signal something to your opponent, and then they're like, well, why didn't you take this other card?
Right.
Well, then maybe I don't want you to have card number 4 then if you took that other one as number 1. Right? Like it's going to be a weird situation when your opponent casts this against you and you have to make those hard decisions.
These are spells that are fantastic to watch on coverage. Like they make coverage moments when so-and-so played Memories Returning and, Finkel didn't choose so-and-so, he chose XYZ, and Kai, then grabbed that, and like that's the type of thing, because A, it lays out all the decision-making, and B, it gives your opponent the opportunity to kind of mess up and not really know they're messing up. It's a beautiful spell. I love the way this was designed.
I wouldn't normally have Memories Returning on my radar. I would think that I would want this effect at instant speed. I would think that maybe this flashback is too big, but I have it on my list for 2 reasons. One is it's written hilariously. I think that the rules text, makes perfect sense, but we've just never seen anything that's like, they do this. then do this, then do this. And the second reason is stock up.
Mm.
Stock up is seeing so much play. This is stock up for an extra blue, but you get an extra card.
Stock
Is
up
that worth it?
ridiculous.
Maybe.
Stock
Maybe,
up
probably
is
not. But
like
yeah.
stock
the
up is
rate,
Go ahead.
obviously the rate on stock up is significantly better. There's a huge gap between 3 and 4, but I think there is a possibility here.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility. I think the problem is just like stock up as a divination.
Yeah,
It's so
it's crazy.
far
Yeah.
off the power charts. I don't even like that card doesn't even read as real to someone
Yeah.
who lived through divination and playing divinations and
Sure.
drafted a bunch of them and being happy about it. Stock up is ridiculous. All right, let's move on here. Power Dragon, what's number 7?
My number 7 is also a crystal because I wanted to have one of them on the list. And personally, I'm a big fan of the green crystal, but not necessarily for real competitive play. I think I decided to go with the darkness crystal. It's 2 black. Legendary artifact, black spells cost 1 less. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile it and you gain 2 life. And then for some unknown reason, you can pay 4 black and put target creature card that was exiled with this onto the battlefield tapped under your control with 2 additional +1/+1 counters. You don't just get the guy, you get a better version of the guy. Like, why, I don't know, but I'm down for it. Like, the crazy thing about this for me, the more I thought about it, is just Black already wants to just kill all your creatures, right? We have so many different things with different sweepers and giving stuff negative counters, whatever. Like, this just fits into a lot of decks. And then from then on out, if you don't kill your opponent with just their own creatures, all right, fine. All my stuff's going to be cheaper and efficient, and I'm gaining life the whole time, right? And because one of the issues right now, I think when which mono black has fallen off a little bit, and it might be just because you're having trouble keeping up with those hyper aggro decks. But now, if maybe I can play this, kill a couple things, gain a little bit of life, now I've bought that extra 1 or 2 turns to start setting some stuff up and get me where I want to go.
Yeah, I also think that this is secretly a 5 mana card because you want to leave
Yeah.
up 1 mana for your Doomblade that now costs 1 instead, or your your 1
Go
mana
for the throat.
give a creature -3,
for sure.
-3 or whatever, just to get that extra little bit of life in there. Very good in EDH, certainly. I mean, mono black control stuff with Crypt Ghast and Cabal Coffers is going to love the Darkness Crystal.
Oh, no, the crazy part in Commander is your opponents fighting each other load your
Right.
card.
That too. Exactly. You're just getting side effect benefits at that point. The 2 life is huge. I think that that's a big deal. If you're able to stabilize against those hyper aggressive red decks and not just die to burn spells or whatever, you're gonna love having Darkness Crystal, kill your Slick Shot, gain 2 life, go kind of draws.
Yeah, my issue is this, and it's been an issue of mine, and I try to be aware of it because Lord, do I love a 4/5 mana thing that does nothing when it enters the battlefield.
Sure.
I love them. I think about the possibilities of what it's doing and so on. And my issue is that playing against these red decks will be dead before this does anything. And
Sure.
I'm doing this from a constructive perspective. I like to play standard. I like to play constructed formats. And so for constructed formats, I don't see this getting there. I think it's amazing for Commander. Like for Commander, it hits every single opponent. It hits every creature that would go in the graveyards. Like you're gaining life all over the place with the Wrath of God. It's ridiculous. But for 1v1, I don't think it's going to get there.
I think that there's a difference between this crystal and the green crystal and the blue crystal for 1v1 formats, which is that 2 life.
Yeah.
The fact that it does help you dig out of the hole if you do have a removal spell alongside of it. You don't have to play it out proactively. You don't have to play it and say go. Right. You can wait until you can trigger it and start your engine.
Yeah. And it's tough because the things that would trigger it, you would likely have already played because you're trying to
sure,
stay on.
But your deck is going to have 20. Like your deck is going to be nothing but removal.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be a lot. And again, maybe it works when, if you're on the play and it's your turn game 2 or whatever, this could be great probably to run out on turn 4 just to get ahead of it. Because once you get ahead of it, the red deck is, once you get ahead of it, the game's over. And they know that.
Yeah.
But if you can't, you die. So
right.
It's a very simple equation. So, but if this can get you there, I trust me. I want it to work. I've been there.
Oh, I'll find a way. Trust me.
All right. So I got a summon over here. I got my summon. I think it's my only. Oh, it's not my only, but it's a good one. And there's only a few times in the game of Magic that includes very magical word zones. Put it that way. There's 25 cards in all of Magic's history that include the text "player loses game."
Sure.
And summon Primal Odin
Yep.
is one of those cards now. It is a 2 black 4 generic mana 5/3 enchantment creature Saga Knight. It is a rare. And it has 3 chapters. The first says destroy target creature an opponent controls. Okay. 6 mana. I invested a bunch. I got a 5/3. It killed your best guy.
Okay.
Cool. Next one. Oh boy. This creature gains, quote, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. That is incredibly wild text that has not been on a standard card in God knows how long. And yeah, so it's not impossible to trigger, I would imagine. It's also, clearly going to be the number one thing your opponent wants to get rid of. It doesn't have any sort of evasion on it, but there's also lots of stuff that gives trample these days. Lots of stuff that can give evasion. You only need it to connect one time. Like, that's the thing. So lastly, it's chapter 3. If you don't get to kill them and win the game that turn, chapter 3, you draw 2 cards and each player loses 2 life. So you're still going to get that black divination thing going out of it no matter what. And if you draw another one, you kind of get to play that whole game again of, well, you better have something for that 5/3 or the game is over, and that's the whole thing. You give something, indestructible and trample or hexproof and trample or whatever, and they're not ready for it. I'm telling you, you can lose games out of nowhere.
Oh, just giving this trample can end a game.
Yeah.
Right? Your opponent's literally like, I'll block with this like 2/2 or whatever. And you're like, great. Take 3 anyway, and the game's over.
Right. Also,
Like,
it goes well with Dion from your earlier list.
Yeah, also I've had considered that actually.
Oh yeah.
Because he flies.
We're putting it together. It's all coming together. Yeah, I think this card is just super rad. I love its uniqueness. I love all the summons, really. I could have put a variety of them here, but I think this one.
And the fact that it also does a very powerful board affecting thing immediately. Mm-hmm. And then your opponent is terrified of its chapter 2, even after it's already kind of done its thing, is a big deal. Like the battle that did the same thing as this wasn't really that scary. Like big 6 mana dark hatchlings aren't super scary, but this one threatens checkmate, and that is a very rare thing.
Yeah, I also appreciate the fact that, in some ways, this is going to be someone's first set. 100%, going to be their first set. And they're going to open this thing and they're going to be like, oh my God, they can lose the game if I just hit you with it, and you're like, yeah, absolutely. Isn't Magic awesome? This is part of why Magic is awesome. And I think that's great. All right, let's move on here to number 6. Ruben, what's number 6?
My number 6 is the only higher that exists on somebody else's list.
Well, then. Power Dragon, what's number 6?
Well, it looks like Evan's the only one that gets to go because I also have mine as higher on somebody else's list.
Ooh. Well, I've got a higher, but it ain't till later. So luckily I get to fill in the number 6 spot now, don't I? So let's go ahead and bring them on up. I've already thrown out the price to move thing, which is fine. But I do think when you look at a creature specifically, and it's got a bunch of, keywords, and you look at a creature, and it's got a really cool, like super cool ability or whatever, and you're like, damn, they only made it. Not only did they make it pretty cheap, they made it a mythic. And when you have cheap mythic creatures, I'm always ready to be like, that card's probably going to be pretty damn good. And let me tell you, I think Lightning Army of One reads pretty damn strong. This card is a white, a red, and a generic mana. 3 mana for a 3/2 mythic legendary human soldier with first strike, trample, and lifelink. Those are some fantastic keywords. And it has stagger whenever lightning deals combat damage to a player until your next turn. If a source will deal damage to that player or a permanent that player controls, it deals double that damage instead. Let's break one more time. If you're able to hit with your first strike trampling lifelinker until your entire next turn, if a source would deal damage to that player or permanent that player controls, it deals double that damage instead. So if you deal that first strike, then all of your other duders who didn't have first strike are dealing double, or dealing double to what they are blocking, or what is blocking it. Like, this card seems little bananas, honestly, and there's a reason this only has 2 toughness.
Right.
This was my number 10.
Nice.
And there's a few reasons. One, I was thinking about all the different possible applications, like just playing Boros humans, right? There's a bunch of human cards that like other soldiers or other humans get +1/+0, whatever. Like once this is a 4 or 5 power attacker, like it starts to get kind of silly.
Mm-hmm.
It's also good on defense against the mono red decks or the Borosaurus decks because having a first striker that can fight some of those things that have gotten pumped up by Manifold Mouse or whatever makes a difference, right? And you're getting a little bit of life gain.
And you're gaining life. That's right.
But also it can be played in the Boros Auras decks because they play the aura that gives stuff flying. So if this comes over connects, now all those mice are dealing double damage or whatever right behind it, which is going to be super annoying. And then I thought about fun, goofy things I could do with this because people forgot about a card called Ashnil that's still in standard. That when you deal damage with the red spell, deals damage equal to Ashnil's power. If this connects and then you like bolt somebody or whatever, like that's almost game ending, which is hilarious. So yeah, lots of wild stuff you could do with this card. It had to be a 3/2. Anything bigger toughness wise would have just been too good on this card.
Yeah. But there are plenty of 1 mana target creature gains hexproof and indestructible effects.
Oh, sure.
That exist. Just see them like Tamio's Safekeeping. There's one in this set that's white that I'm forgetting the name of.
There's the white one from Duskborn that gives it +1/+1. It's a enchantment that attaches. So then she's a 4/3. Hexproof until a turn, bruh.
Yeah.
This card
this is a great way to turn the corner against opposing aggressive decks. And then on your turn, if you untap with it as a 3/2 or as a 4/3 or whatever, and then play your Twin Flame Tyrant, or you play your big 5 mana haste creature, or you play your take an extra combat step after this one, what are you going to do? You're dealing 1 million damage. This is like an Aurelia the War's Fury for half the cost.
Yeah. If you're playing the equipment deck, what if you put a double striking equipment on it?
Sure. Let's get a Evercleave kind of guy going on this card for sure.
And feel free to fill in that lore, y'all, from the chats. But as I recall, this is a pretty important character in Final Fantasy 13, and they made sure she was awesome.
Yeah, there's not a lot of creatures at 3 cost that carry equipment better than this one.
There you go. So let's move on here to number 5. Ruben, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is a card that is, first of all, I think is great. It's a really excellent card. But more importantly, it's how my mom yells at me if I'm downstairs. Rauban! Rauban! Raubahn! Raubahn! Rauban! Bull of Ala Migo is my number 5. A generic and a red gets you a 2/2 human warrior with ward, pay life equal to Rauban's power. And when he attacks, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to target attacking creature. That is powerful. So it's a 2/2 for 2. It dies to Doomblade, but if they Doomblade it, they're at least going to take 2 damage. But when it attacks, it can pick up a Buster Sword. When it attacks, it can pick up a Colossal Hammer. When it attacks, it can pick up an Argentum Armor. It can pick up anything laying on the battlefield
for free.
And then the ward gets even worse for whoever's on the other side. So that's a pretty powerful gentleman.
Yeah, I'm thinking like you get your free Leyline Axe and this guy picks it up when it's ready to attack. And
that's right.
That gets kind of ugly. And the fact that it's still, lose life equal to its power. Because you're playing equipment, very likely this is going to be easily a 4 power if they don't kill it immediately. And then it becomes a real issue. Because you're going to get low enough that all you're going to be able to do is chump block it. Because if you kill it or try to target it to kill it, you're going to die.
You want to die. I love this. I love that. This card is fantastic. I'm glad you included it. Just like the Buster Sword is the nut after Freya Crescent, this is the nut from your turn 2, turn 3 when you didn't get to Freya Crescent out the Buster Sword as soon as you wanted to, and so on.
Played in the same deck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is going to probably make it all the way back to the Colossus Hammer decks. Free is free, and it's as cheap as it can be, and that ward is fan-freaking-tastic. So I would not be surprised to see this go back many, many flavors in all the different formats. All right, let's move on to number 5 in Power Dragon. What you got?
Well, it's not often you find cards that you say, oh, this will probably be a staple in every commander deck of this color till the end of time. But we found one, I'm pretty sure, in Go-Go Master of Mimicry. Like 2 and a blue for a 2/4 legendary wizard. It has XX and tap it, and you copy target activated or triggered ability you control X times. You can choose new targets for the copies. X can't be 0.
Mhm.
Like I don't like this is one of the cards like I look at it and go, God, I hate it. Like I mean, like why does this exist? Like literally everything on your turn from now on, like you're just like, okay, and hell, it doesn't even have to be used as a sorcery. Like it's just all right, this triggers, I get to draw like 4 cards now. I get to bounce 6 things. I get to tap 3 players' boards or whatever the case is, right? Like this is going to do some very silly things, especially if you have this something you draw on like turn 8, turn 9, and you've got 10 mana sitting around and you can copy something 5 times.
I mean, it
Like-
copies planeswalker abilities.
Yes.
Right.
It copies everything.
Right.
Yeah,
Planeswalkers
basically.
are definitely the thing I'm most interested in copying with this guy. Like
Yeah.
even just a Narset, but all the way up to Ugins and Karns and stuff.
Stun counters on guys. Like you I mean it's everything.
Yeah, and also probably goes infinite pretty easily with like untap abilities and mana rocks. I would think that you could pretty easily take like a Kelpie Guide. Isn't that the one that untaps stuff you control? You could probably copy that 3-4 times, targeting
yeah,
a Gilded Lotus.
There you go.
Or
there
whatever.
you go. See, now we're doing some stupid stuff. I love that.
Like a Fate Stitcher, and you just
Yeah.
untap 5 things and gain 1,000,000 mana. There's probably something there.
It's a nutso card. I'm surprised it's not selling for more than it is, honestly. I saw the price because, like, you see, like, Sephiroth going for dumb amounts, and I'm like, well, obviously, Go-Go has to be as expensive as Sephiroth, and, like, not even close for some reason.
No, it's about half the cost. Again, right now, the prices are so Wild West, it's ridiculous.
It's also a 2/4.
Yes!
Like, this is a huge creature. 3 mana 2/4? That's Courser of Krufix stats. That thing's surviving a lightning bolt. I think
And
fights in
only
combat.
1 blue in the cost. This feels like a card that if there was ever a time it should be 3 blue pips,
Yeah,
this is one of them.
for sure.
Get your copies and just use them in every blue deck you play and you
Yeah.
build for the rest
Sounds
of
right.
your life. This card's ridiculous.
Even if you just copy a thing for, like, you 2 mana, every spell just basically can say, or every effect can just be, pay 2 mana, copy this thing.
Yeah. You'd have just a fork
Right?
for every ability activated, triggered, from then on. Like, wow. And the 4 toughness, again, was like,
That 4 toughness is
Man.
It's
wild.
crazy.
that 4
It's
toughness,
genuinely crazy.
that's why it's mythic, is that 4 toughness. If it was been a 2/3 rare, it's a 2/4 mythic. That's what I would say.
I agree.
All right, let's move on here to my number 5. This is another card that I just love because somebody's first set is going to be Final Fantasy, and they're going to show up and they're going to take a look at Absolute Virtue, and they're going to go, "Oh my god!" And you're going to go, And they're like, "Really? They can't do nothing, and they can't hurt me, and they can't target me." And you go, and they go, "Oh my god!" And then you Doomblade it and whatever. But either way, Absolute Virtue is a blue, white, and 6 generic mana. It's 8 mana for an 8/8 mythic, legendary, avatar, warrior. It cannot be countered. It has flying, and you have protection from each of your opponents. You can't be dealt damage, enchanted, or targeted by anything of your opponents. This is the thing you reanimate against the red deck, because they're going to try to kill you, and they can't, because they can't get rid of an 8/8. This is the thing you wait for them out. This is the thing that wins control mirrors, because they're not going to have targeted removal. They're going to have to, get that wrath out where you can just counter. Like, they're going to have very expensive removal versus very cheap removal you can find elsewhere.
Right.
So this isn't the card that's going on all the decks. This is probably going to be a card that's in sideboards or whatever for whatever reason. But again, it's a cool creature. It's really rad. Like, it's really cool from like the story angle. I think the lore angle is really cool, and just an awesome creature.
I've considered
also-
this card. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
No, I've looked at this kind of like what you were saying as the best sideboard card against green decks and against red decks. Like, because they're going to have so limited ways to get rid of this.
Right.
Green can obviously bring in stuff that like kills flyers or whatever, because there's a lot of that. But
Sure.
they're going to have to do it knowing that this is a real option.
Right.
Like, it's pretty wild to even see that text on a card, honestly. Like, but like you're saying, if you're worried about it, even if you're playing a reanimator deck, just have a couple of these on the board as your reanimator target of choice in those matchups. And there's not much they do after that. And this only takes 3 attacks to kill the opponent too. So it's not like they have a lot of time.
Yeah.
It does have evasion built in.
There is a lot of, first of all, there's a lot of generic mana in this casting cost. So we can reduce that cost pretty easily with crystals or medallions or the twin. I forget which of the twins is the white-blue one. That things cost less for how much life you gain.
And the white
Yeah,
aura
yeah, yeah.
site can help you cast it sooner. That's right.
There you go. That's right. But also the first thing I looked at with this card was, all right, is this a good reanimator target? Kind of. It's a great tooth and nail target because if you can get this guy and like an Avacyn in play, or you can get this with any amount of ability to protect it, like a benevolent bodyguard, like literally
Anything.
Anything
Ham
that is
sandwich.
able to sit on it. If you're able to protect it, the game has now shifted. It's very much like a Platinum Angel in that way, where you are now playing, is this surviving? If so, I win.
But the Platinum Angel wasn't a 7-mana 7/7.
Right.
It was a 4/4.
Right.
Oh, God.
Well, now we have a 7-mana 6/6 flash Platinum Angel.
Yeah.
But this thing is an 8/8 that can't be countered also. Let's not forget.
Yeah, this card is dope. This card is like, if your opponent plays this in sealed deck and you're not playing like black, just let it go. Just let it go. Just go ahead. Just scoop them on up. High five them. You won the Mythic lottery game, and I'm sorry. It sucks. All right, let's move over here to number 4. Ruben, what you got?
My number 4, going from an 8-mana creature all the way down to a 1-mana creature. This is a card that I would be relatively surprised if it didn't see 4 of standard play, and that would be Saz Chocobo. Saz Chocobo is a 1 green mana 0/1 bird. It's an uncommon in the set with the ability Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. I mean, how is this not going to immediately see play? This is step links, except for that it maintains the benefit permanently. I think that we've seen stuff like this be successful in the past, things that are slowly able to accrue value over the course of the game. Even if you're just playing regular Magic, it becomes a 2/3 by turn 3, a 3/4 by turn 4. Like, it's already going to maintain pace with the rest of the stuff you're playing, much less if you're playing ramp in any meaningful way.
Yeah, it's also neat for +1/+1 counters decks, if you want another early 1-drop there. And obviously, being a bird with all the Chocobo stuff, it's going to have to be in those decks. But it's cool because it can go in the bird deck. It's maybe part of the landfall decks. And, like +1/+1 counter decks. So, like, it can find homes in a few different places, which would be kind of cool for just a simple uncommon.
Yeah, they've done this, quite a few times now in terms of like you play, landfall, you get a creature. Bristly Bill, for example, is a recent example. But Saz Chocobo, again, the price to move, man. Like, if they want Chocobos to be decent, you got to give them a good curve, and this is where your curve starts. You want to play 4 of this, continuously, and then go back to my number 9, old Barts and Boko. You get a stew going.
Yeah.
Let us cook over here. It'll be good. It'll be great.
I mean, if you go land this, land bird, turn 3, you play Barts and Boko, and your Zaz already is dealing 2 damage. Yeah. So even just on curve with no fetch lands of any kind, you're already going much bigger.
You're dealing 5 damage to their creatures over your 2 creatures, and you still have, your 3 creatures. So yeah, it's a really cool deck. I can imagine warming up here. Power Dragon, what's number 4?
My number 4, we're just going to segue into more Chocobos because it's Traveling Chocobo here for 2 and a green for a 3/2 bird. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can play lands and cast bird spells from the top of your library. And if a land or bird you control entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And I think everybody's first thought was like, okay, this obviously helps the birds and the Chocobos in the set. But it's like, it also just helps anything that cares about landfall triggers as well. Right. Like, if you want to get extra tokens off of your Felidar retreat or whatever, like, this is a thing that happens, or get those counters, right? Or even pumping up the other, the Shaj's Chocobo, like we were just talking about, right? You get 2 triggers now, and it grows there. The only downside of this card is it's probably really like a turn 4 card. So hopefully you can look at the top of your library, maybe play a land, get some value off of it before your opponent does something to it. It's probably the only real downside to it. But otherwise, it's a pretty sweet card. It doesn't let you play additional lands, which would be kind of sweet. but it does let you play also birds off the top of your library, which is pretty nice too.
Yeah, there's a lot of landfall commanders that's gonna benefit from just having this in the deck, absent the bird synergy. Things like all of the Omnaths, the Necrobloom, Tatiova, Flubs, all those kind of cards. And then there are a few birds that sneak in there. Derevi comes to
Yeah.
mind as a card that is either a commander or a piece of like those Sisay pile of legends decks. And that has a trigger. And so that is able to trigger twice now. And so I don't know how good Traveling Chocobo is going to be. I know that it's the focus card of the set, that there are the 77 numbered copies. It's got all these crazy neon things in it. I understand how much people love Chocobos as well. This card is very good. I do not know that it will be the best card in the set, but it is very good.
Yeah, the big thing I think to not discount is the playing the lands and the bird spells from the top of your library.
Yeah.
That's super powerful. Like you basically kind of drew a second pseudo card every turn because you know what you're about to draw. And if it's a land, which is 40% of your deck, you just literally got that for free. Didn't have to play that from your hand at all. So, and there's just weird stuff that it can get currently. Like Slick Shot Show Off is a bird wizard. I know it's a little silly.
Yeah.
But that's an activated ability.
Okay.
Mockingbird triggering twice is good, clean living.
Okay.
I think that's fantastic. So yeah, there's a few things where I'm like, I don't know, maybe.
Man, I really want Birds of Paradise in Standard again, but
we always want Birds of Paradise in Standard.
I mean, I always do, but now we have Bird Tribal.
Well, it's time to go to that landfall trigger once again for my number 4, and that's Tifa Lockhart. Now look,
yeah,
she might not be that good. She might not even be that playable. I don't even know. I just know that it's, in the year of our Lord 2025, when we're barreling towards 35 years or whatever of Magic, and we're like, it's hard to just write a sentence and be like impressive and be cool and be like, oh, that's a rad design. Normally they got to have, then you blank and then you blank and then you blank and then you whatever. No. Tifa, very, very simple. Green and generic mana for a 1/2 trample. Whenever she's a legendary human monk, which is nice, she's a rare. Landfall, whenever a land you control enters, you double her power until end of turn. That's it. Just double her power. That's brilliant. I love it. She's already got the pseudo evasion, getting over them. She's got the 2 toughness, so that's a thing that is going to be a drawback you have to work around. But you can clearly see how this scales. It scales in a really cool, fun way. There's a way you can build your deck to make the most out of this, and for all those things to come together and to be a really cool design in one sentence, A+, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that is definitely getting a lot of hype. And the interesting thing is I thought about that we have the other Hydra in Standard. Mossborn Hydra, I believe it is.
Yeah.
It gets double the number of counters, which is basically double power, but it just keeps it instead of resetting.
Right.
And I thought, well, we don't play that much of that. But what if we played them together?
Sure.
Like, now that becomes like, okay, now there's 2 threatening things that the opponents have to deal with. It's like, this could become a real issue now. So, yeah, people are going to lose to Tifa a couple of times. Could it be gimmicky? You don't kill it. They make 3 lands into battlefield or land tokens or whatever. And yeah, sure. But I think if you put it together with the Mossborn Hydra, you could start building a real deck around that.
Yeah.
And we do
it's
have
also worth noting
at home, remember?
Right, that too. It's also worth noting that we can just make her power bigger.
Yeah.
Right? Like we don't need to make her power bigger by doubling and doubling and doubling. We can just say, here's Titanic Growth Fabled Passage. Attack you for 20. Which is not great, but it is something.
But it is
and
exciting.
I'm sure, and the redundancy of the Hydra helps a lot. And then you've got the backup support of, mana acceleration isn't bad.
And those decks also tend to play things like Bristly Bill or whatever that also care about landfall and putting counters on stuff. So they could be parts of a real deck, honestly.
Right. I mean, look, Giant Growth, play a land, hit you for 8. That's a third of your life plus. That's more than a third of your life. So like GG on that scale. I love that. I think that's cool. And so again, for like such an iconic character, I love the fact that this iconic character doesn't have 8 lines of text. Tifa's cool. Sure. She's a badass. I love what this means. I love how this reads. No notes. You know what I mean? Like just keep going. I love it. Let's move on here to number 3, my only higher, but that's okay because it's awesome. Ruben, what's number 3?
My number 3, I think, was like the second card we saw spoiled from the set, but it still is absurd. We love a 3-mana 2/4, and this is another 3-mana 2/4, and that is Emmett Selch Unsundered. Emmett Selch Unsundered is apparently the villain from Final Fantasy XIV, or one of the villains. 1 generic black blue for a 2/4 vigilance. And when Emmett Selch enters or attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14, because Final Fantasy XIV,
Ooh.
or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Emmett Selch into Hades, Sorcerer of Eld, who is a 6/6 vigilance. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. That's Yawgmoth's Will,
was
or
like
Underworld
Yawg
Breach,
Bargain.
Yeah.
or I mean, that's crazy, right? Like or it's a Yawgmoth's Agenda, like any of that
Or
kind
no
of stuff.
agenda, you're right.
Still, just absolutely crazy that is a thing. And at the low cost of 14 cards in your graveyard, that's fairly easy to get in the course of playing Magic.
Yeah, I think that was the issue for me when I first read it. I was like, how many cards are we really going to have in the graveyard, whatever? But there's a lot of ways right now to put cards in the graveyard. I mean, there's lots of stuff that just self mills, sacrificing things, whatever, discarding stuff. So, like, it's not going to be that hard to really contrive that many cards into your graveyard.
Yeah, like first of all, it's fueling its own ability, right? Which is rad. And when there's 14 or more cards, you don't have to flip them over, but you can. Once you flip them over, you can play another copy, which is also nice. And yeah, flipping them over doesn't cost you any mana. It doesn't mean, it didn't say once there's 14, you got to exile 14 or whatever, then flip them. No. They're going to be there ready to go. And that's pretty awesome. And I think that it's not too hard to get a lot of advantage over all the things you just self-milled, not to mention it's a 6/6 vigilance that they're going to have to deal with in some form or fashion. That's letting you replay and rebuy everything in your graveyard, which is already scary. So it's going to get out their best removal or their best tactic to stop you if this guy flips over. So that alone to me says this is a really good threat. So wow.
Yeah, and just drawing and discarding with the vigilance creature is also really good. I mean, 3 mana, 2/4, it's got all the right stats to be playable to do what it's trying to do.
Exactly. That high toughness lets you get in and lets you do the draw card, discard over and over. Yawgmoth's Agenda, not a very expensive or necessarily powerful card, but it's also not attached to a 6/6 vigilance all the time,
Right.
like this one is.
Right.
After
Yawgmoth's Agenda was a
14.
player in Standard 20 years ago.
20 years ago, it was something, right? So, but you can only play one spell a turn for Yawgmoth's Agenda.
I mean, listen, Magic 20 years ago,
it was a different time. 25 years ago, buddy. I'm sorry, you're old now.
Sorry, my bad.
Flower Dragon, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is the last higher on my list, which doesn't surprise me at all when we get around to it.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on here to our numero 2. Number 2. I'll go ahead and get mine out of the way because I think this is cool. I love the lands in this set. I think the lands are awesome. I love the town thing. Love the town thing. Town things are awesome. And the rare towns are even cooler. I think they're fan-freaking-tastic. I've got more than one on my list. Hint, hint. But for my number 2 is Midgar City of Mako. This card is dope. This is a rare land town. It has a sorcery adventure on it of Reactor Raid. For a black and 2 generic mana, you may sacrifice an artifact or creature. If you do, draw 2 cards. It's what, Deadly Dispute? Is that correct? Right?
Ish. Close enough.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It's one of those, right? Well,
it's one of those.
My God.
Yeah, it's sorcery speed, but yeah.
Everything in the mama these days makes an artifact when there's a battlefield or, a clue or blood token, whatever. It squirts out something. And so you have the ability to make a turn, send it on adventure on turn 3 for 3 mana. You're still going to get to play it in, tapped as a land for free at that point. So they made that spell sort of cost 1 more mana, but you're getting the land free the next turn. So you got it coming and going. And if you don't have the sorcery to play, if you don't have something to sacrifice, just play it as the battle tap land. That's okay too.
Yeah.
This card is great.
This was my number 6. This is the only higher on my list. I agree with you. I think that this is the best one of the cycle. It is a sorcery speed 3 mana thing. But listen, drawing 2 cards, being a sack outlet to sacrifice either a creature or artifact, both of which could be helpful in some meaningful way in various, particularly the red-black kind of aggressive sacrifice ability stuff, is fine. Coming to play tapped card on turn 1 is fine. 3 mana is a low cost to pay for this adventure. I think that this is going to be a solid role player in those sort of mid-rangey black sacrifice kind of decks.
Yeah, it's a type of card that I think can fit just a variety of decks, right? Whether you're playing the red black aggro stuff, and sometimes you want to get rid of a random goblin token, get a couple cards. If you're playing something that has artifacts, treasure, something like that to get rid of, hell, the aristocrats decks, right? With Sephiroth or whatever. It's like,
Sephiroth,
okay,
that's what I'm
cool.
about to mention, right?
Yeah, just sack a token, get 2 cards, and my opponent loses life or
Yeah.
whatever on top of it. Right. Like, so there's a lot of
Mobilize.
places. Yeah, there's a lot of places a card like this can fit for sure. I mean, you can't go crazy with it because you don't want a bunch of tap lands, but even just a couple copies is good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like Sephiroth is going to lead some kind of aristocracy, sack everything you can as much as you can, whatever. And this is the exact type of land you want in that deck. It is still a land. It is still going to make mana if you need to. But if you're looking for that sack outlet, it's not the best rate, but it is right here on your land. It's like when we had all those creature lands and like half your mana base was creature lands. You're going to worry too much about creatures when half of your mana base is attacking.
Right. I think that's the other important thing is that all of these are going to see play. I think that all 5 will see play, meaningful play, like 1 of, 2 of in lots of decks, just because they're split cards, just because they can be coming to play tap lands that have a spell on them.
Well, they seem like they're going to show up at the very least in a bunch of commander decks, right? Because you get to turn 6, 7, 8, where you've already ramped up, have your mana. Like, okay, so do I really need another just tap land? But I might want 2 cards, right? Or opponent swept the board or whatever, and you're like, well, I have this mana rock I played on turn 2 that isn't doing anything anymore. Let's scrap that, get 2 cards, right? Like, there's a lot of places you could use a card like this.
Yeah, like I almost put the white one on here because it can get back overlords and things. The card's fan-freaking-tastic. I mean, even the blue one's just cute for the mill lovers out there. Give them something neat on their lands. That's great. I think that's super cool. And so, yeah, there's this whole cycle is fantastic, and I do think the black one is the best one. So, high five. Ruben, what's number 2?
My number 2, I mean, it's no secret that this card is good. This is maybe the most talked about card from the main set for Commander, and that is Vivi Ornitier. Ornitier?
How you spell that?
Ornitier. I'm gonna assume Vivi is French.
Vivi.
Okay.
Yep.
Vivi Ornitier is generic blue-red for a 0/3 legendary creature wizard with the following activated ability: pay 0: add X mana in any combination of blue and or red where X is Vivi Ornitier's power. Activate only during your turn and only once each turn. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Vivi, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So there's a number of reasons why this is broken and why this is getting a lot of attention, particularly from competitive Commander players. One is, we'll start here. The card Curiosity says whenever this creature deals damage to a player, draw a card. So you play Curiosity, it gets bigger. You play any spell, I think you draw 3 cards because it deals damage individually to each opponent. So Gitaxian Probe, draw 4 cards. Gut Shot, draw 3 cards, right? So very easy to get this thing to be ridiculous, and then it also grows bigger. Number 2, pay 0: and add power, or add mana equal to its power.
That's insane.
Very easy to make it pump up, or put equipment on it, or make its power bigger. Or, as we've seen during preview season, you combo it with a unknown, unplayable card from 25 years ago called Quicksilver Elemental. The way that combo works is you have a 3 generic blue 3/4 elemental that says pay a blue: Quicksilver Elemental gains the activated ability of target creature you control till the end of the turn. So what you do is you play the Quicksilver, you pay a blue to give it Vivi's ability, add 3 blue mana to your mana pool, pay a blue mana to give it Vivi's ability again, and that gives you infinite mana in red or blue. because you keep giving it Vivi's ability over and over and over and over again.
Oh my god, that card!
Right.
This card is nuts. There's nothing weird.
It's crazy.
There's nothing fair about what's going on here. Like,
yeah.
not
So
even
this
close.
one is very likely to be at top tables for CEDH tournaments very soon.
It was the number 3 on my list, and the only reason Go-Go wasn't my most hated card in the set is because this damn thing exists.
Sure.
Like, I mean, like this. Honestly, this is going to be a headache for us on the Commander format panel because
yeah,
every small spell that pumps power, does anything, whatever, now becomes an issue with this card.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah.
It combos with a bunch of different things. Like it deals damage to multiple players at once, so it could be a 1-card game ender in some scenarios. Like it's doing a lot of work, and the fact that for some reason you don't have to pay anything to get all that extra mana is just mind-boggling to me. But it's here. We got to deal with it. It's selling for crazy prices, and it makes total sense, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think those prices, $91 as of this recording, are actually real. But
No.
it's still like, I mean, God Almighty, this card is nuts. Like,
but I think that like $40 could be real for this card.
Could be real
so
until
too,
it's banned.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Welcome
for
to
sure.
your new pressure point for the next year,
Right.
Power Dragon.
There's a very
I'm already
real,
aware. Trust me.
Yeah, there's a very real shot that this is a problem. You can go Vivi, play a Lotus Petal, trigger, put Curiosity on Vivi, trigger, play a free spell, draw 4 cards. So like, even if you're not getting 1,000,000 mana out of it, the second ability is just refilling your hand. And oh, by the way, it has 2-card combo potential to give you infinite mana. So it is a problem coming and going.
Like, there's a reason, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, Magic players. There has, like, beyond, I think, the cards they got rid of, which was like the Flag Bearers, right? Remember they had 0 colon on them? What has 0 colon on it as a creature?
Yeah.
Like
Encore. This guy.
This guy, that's that it?
Yeah, there's a couple of random ones, but nothing great.
The others are like a Johnny Nikotl, Pariah, and Kithion because they flip it to Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
This card is ridiculous. This is a 0 colon add mana. Its second ability fuels stupid things, particularly in multiplayer environments. Jesus, they wanted to make this card good. They truly
I don't even know
did.
why Vivi's even an 03. Why is it not just an 01? Since you're going to be pumping it up so easily anyway.
Because it reads bad? I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we just added extra stats on an already double pile of ridiculous abilities.
This card is bananas.
Card's very good.
And
Again, though, we're scared of it right now, and then when we watch this back in a month or two, we'll be
like, ha ha ha, Vivi's not that hard.
We'll see how we.
I can tell you with some early testing and research after this was previewed, the card is very good.
Okay.
It was, look, man, some cards sell sets, and Vivi is a card that sells packs of Magic the Gathering because that card is crazy. Power Dragon, what's number 2?
This was probably my second most underrated card in the set. Just looking at cards people aren't talking about based on how they read. But Kefka Court Mage. 2 blue, black, red. So 5 mana for a 4/5 human wizard. When it enters or attacks, each player discards a card. Then you draw a card for each card type among the cards discarded this way. So my thing was, even if I never flip this card, because it does have a flip ability, we'll talk about in a second, but like it's a 5 mana 4/5 that I'm realistically probably drawing 2 cards with,
at least,
and my opponent has discarded a card. Right, like that seems fine and then that happens every time I attack as well.
That's good. That's nuts.
Right, so now your opponent never gets to even hold a card. But at some point in the future, I can pay 8 mana and not just flip this, but each opponent sacrifices a permanent of their choice just because, which I'm assuming is a flavor thing. And then it becomes a 5/7 flying Kefka Ruler of Ruin. And whenever an opponent loses life during your turn, you draw that many cards. Like, what? Like, I get to attack for 5, ding you, and then just get a whole new hand? Like, okay, I guess. I don't know why, but sure, let's do it. Yeah, this card seems like it's going to be a pain in the butt if your opponent actually gets this out, especially if you get you on a turn where you're tapped down and you only have a card left that you were planning on using later. Yeah, this card's gonna be a mess.
I mean, look, I play Constructor. I play 1v1 and this card reads amazing. This card is actual bananas in Commander.
Yeah.
This card is crazy in Commander round. This card is just like
Oh,
what
and
is
Commander,
happening?
because each player discards a card. You might draw 4 or 5.
Yes, you
Right.
probably will. And then you get
Well,
to attack the player who doesn't
even-
can't block well, and then you get even more.
Right. Even one-on-one, you're very likely, or at least able, to discard a card that has 2 card types, like enchantment creature
Absolutely.
or artifact creature.
Right.
And your opponent, very likely, is going to want to maybe discard a land, right? Something that they're not using on turn
that's
5
draw
or
3.
6. So that's draw 3 pretty easily off your 5-drop 4/5 creature.
Like 5 mana, 4/5. You discard, and I do, but I draw 3 cards. Like you
okay.
play that all day. You wouldn't need anything else. You'd be like,
Well,
yeah,
also,
that first ability
even-
was all it needs.
If I discard an artifact creature and you discard a creature, let's say, bare minimum. 5 mana 4/5. When it enters the battlefield, you discard a card and I draw 2 cards. I'll take that. I'll just take that.
That's
fine.
what my thing was when I read it. I said, worst case scenario, if it's just opponent discards the cards, I draw 2 and get a 4/5 for 5 mana. I'm down.
Yeah.
Even if it never does anything.
That's Nicol Bolas, the flip Nicol Bolas.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
and
good.
you still
That's
have to discard a card, okay, but
Sure.
whatever. Like, sure. And the 8 mana thing, and then once it flips over and you hit
Sure.
for 5, you draw 5 cards.
Sure.
It's
If you
got
wanna flip them,
evasion.
go
Like-
Yeah,
right
the
ahead.
backside's just egregious. Like,
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
backside
like,
is-
It's like an
really
ultimate on a planeswalker. Like
Yeah.
we don't.
It's cute, but
That's
like
flavor text.
I'm just gonna be smashing in for 4 and drawing a ton of cards, getting stuff in the graveyard to reanimate that I
Yeah.
want there to reanimate anyway. In the reanimation colors, like, okay, yeah, this card was like this close to my top 10. I'm so glad you included it. It's another one of those like I just feel like you got to pay a lot of attention these days to the first things that Wizards shows you from sets because they're almost always like the best cards. And this was absolutely one of the first things they showed us. They were like, look at Kafka, he's so awesome, he's a super cool villain, and blah blah blah. We're like, yeah, and he reads awesome. So let's go. Nice choice. All right, let's move on here to our number 1 pick. Oh my gosh. Well, I will go ahead and get my number 1 out here. A, because I got to do some stuff in the back end. But B, it's because I've talked about this card before. And I still love it. I've not loved it ever since I've talked about it or read it, really. And then just went like, what? What is this card? Huh? Because when you have, come on. Scryfall, what are you doing to me here? Not let me pull the stupid thing. So yeah, when you have a spell that is, 8 friggin' mana, right? And you're just like, Jesus, what could it do for 8 mana? I don't know. Make a bajillion tokens. We just talked about knights a little while ago because they're summon Knights of Round. Oh my God. 2 white, 6 generic, 8 mana. You're like, 8 mana, that's ridiculous. You're not paying 8 mana for this. You're gonna reanimate this. Let's talk about it. It's a 3/3 indestructible enchantment saga knight, first of all. And yeah, it's mythic and will be worth a ton of money, but it ain't right now, so pick it up. Anyway, for the first 4 of its 5 chapters, you make 3 2/2 white knight creature tokens. Again, this is alongside your 3/3 indestructible. And if they get rid of your 3/3 indestructible, you still have the 3 2/2 white knight creature tokens. Like your caretaker's talent stuff is going nuts. The creature there is going crazy. Awesome. You do that 4 times in a row. You get your 12 knights out of it, 13 with itself. And then the ultimate end for chapter 5, you're never going to get here, but if you ever happen to, other creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. Put an indestructible counter on each of them. Basically, end the freaking game already. Because how does your opponents deal with 12 2/2s and this indestructible 3/3 with God knows what you're doing with all your night stuff?
Yeah,
this card's fantastic. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, hard to be upset about it.
Yeah, you're gonna reanimate it as an enchantment or reanimate it as a creature, and
it's super flavorful if you've ever played the game. Like I joke about this. I believe the spell actually takes a legit 90 seconds to resolve
it does.
because it's literally just like an effect of just like, here comes this night damage, here comes this night damage, here comes this. That's literally what it does for a minute and a half.
It takes
Like
so long.
It's the most insane thing. So cool representation of that spell. Like, because I was like, how do you do something like this and have it like even be remotely playable and whatever? And like, hey, credit to R&D because this is actually a pretty fun design.
This is so dope. Yeah, this is exactly the type of card that I just, I'm the Timmy. I'm a Timmy Spike, all right? And the Timmy and me cannot get over all of the numbers on this card. Like, what is happening? What happens when you play it? The things that happen on the board when you do, when it goes completely haywire and makes all the things. Like, yeah, God Almighty, just pull it right out of my brain, right out of the Joy Center, and make it a magic card. And we've got this.
Yeah.
Ruben, what's number one?
Well, my number one, it was fairly easy to pick my top like 4, I feel like. And I have a very boring number one, and I do apologize for how boring it is. But somebody had to put Starting Town on the list.
It's my number 3.
Because we're here. Oh, number 3 is good because it's the first 3 turns. Yeah, that's not bad. I appreciate you and what you stand for. Starting Town is a town land that taps for a wingding, a colorless. Mm-hmm. Pay a life and tap it to add 1 mana of any color, and the land enters tapped unless it's your first, second, or third turn of the game. I mean, a lot of games don't last past turn 3, and certainly in this phase of Magic, the early game, and some of the mid game are often turns 2 and 3. In Standard, this is going to be great if you're trying to play 3 or 4 colors, much less 5. In Commander, this is very much going to be like an exotic orchard kind of land where, it's going to be really context dependent on if this is going to be good. I don't know that this is an auto include in every deck, but I think it's going to be in many decks, particularly if you're playing like a blue farm, like a 4-color or a 5-color kind of strategy. So this one, I would not be shocked to see as a 4 of in multiple of the top Standard decks for the next 2 years.
Yeah, it seems like the type of card that could potentially show up even in some older formats. If you just want to make sure you're hitting double color stuff constantly, like it enables that a little bit more. And this was actually my number 6. I mean, it makes sense that this was going to be on somebody's top list for sure. But yeah, this card's interesting because we did have a period in Standard not long ago where we were playing I don't remember the name of it because it's a bad land, but it's like you choose a color, but then you have to take a damage every time you tap it or whatever. This is basically that, but you don't have to choose a color. Like you just get whatever. So like, why would you not want to play this? Like if those other lesser lands are viable, this has to be. Like there's no way this doesn't get played.
Like how, this is one of those like, how good is this card? It is, barring his number one, the only card on all 3 lists. Like, this card is dope. Like, coming or going, casual, competitive. This card is sweet. I love the fact that they acknowledge that the first 3 turns of the game you will be aware of. You will remember. You will note. Like, oh, I know it's my 3rd turn. It's my 3rd land drop. Like, once you get to turn 4 and 5, you're like, wait, what turn am I on again or whatever? But the first 3 turns, you know the first 3 turns. And you know when this is going to be applicable. And this card is really, really good. One of the best they've made of this type. And the fact that it's a town is important too for a variety of reasons. And the card's super great. And just tell me, there are 64 Through the Ages cards. There are 586 Final Fantasy cards. There's 444 Commander cards. And you're telling me there's not a Starting Town alternate artwork? Are you serious?
That's crazy, actually.
It's not even an extended art version.
I actually had that same thought when I was looking it up. It's just like, you didn't even get a borderless, like weird alternate art or whatever.
Of like, all the cards in the whole set, it's one of the best stamp cards in the set. You don't even do an extended artwork. Are you out of your
Honestly,
mind?
you could have made Starting Town like the chase card with like 10 different versions or whatever.
So
it could have been so cool.
My impression of this is that Starting Town is the Orcish Bowmasters of the set. What I mean by that is that it is generically named enough that it could be reprinted and repurposed in the future. So maybe they're going to give us a cool reprint, a cool new version, a promo version in the winter for a secret lair. This is a great one. Any artists out there who've got a secret lair on your menu, you should ask for Starting Town and put it in your secret lair, because that's one that's going to have juice.
Yeah, I can see this if we go back to, say, like Eldraine or Bloomburrow. Like, okay, Starting Town sort of fits a theme for storytelling or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that could work. I could see that.
Like, I appreciate the fact they put Sid in all the different versions of all the different Final Fantasies, but like a Starting Town version for every Final Fantasy is just, but It's right there.
Yeah, I
It
could see
writes
that.
itself. Oh,
Yeah.
you can't even give me extended art and one of the best cards in the set.
Could have made them even just
This is
5
ridiculous.
color themed, so whatever type of deck you're playing, you can choose the starting town to match your deck or whatever. You know,
every weird little dork in this whole set gets a special artwork, blah blah blah, from a freaking instruction booklet from 30 years ago. But the starting, all right, that's enough.
Actually, you know what would have been sweet if you'd have made it like one of the WPN promos or something for the
Hell
next
yeah.
like month after the set releases or whatever.
Look,
right? That would have been cool.
I like that.
I actually think that if you did a secret layer of starting town for every one of the Final Fantasies, you know what I mean? Like 1 through X and X through Y.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, I think that'd be a huge seller, honestly, because, you know, A, it flies right into the Final Fantasy theme, and
Kinda
B,
cool.
yeah, it gives you a reason to collect them all and so on. It just blows my mind. I can't believe there's no other versions. All right, wrap it up here, Power Dragon. What's your number 1?
Okay, I got to quickly, because we didn't actually cover it, and I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be on somebody's list, which is why I didn't include it. My honorable mention was Summon Leviathan.
Yeah, that was close.
Because that actually might make Merfolk playable. Right? It's a 6 mana, 6/6 Summon Leviathan with Ward 2. Chapter 1, return each creature that isn't a Kraken, Leviathan, Merfolk, Octopus, Serpent to its owner's hand, which is basically everything right now, except for one deck in Standard actually plays Serpents.
Right.
And then in the next 2 chapters, till end of turn, when a Kraken, Leviathan, Merfolk, whatever attacks, you draw a card.
Yeah.
But like this could be huge in a Merfolk deck. Like they don't have a top end currently of any kind. And like if you just play this, wipe the board, and you have like 3 dudes out, like okay, cool. Attack for 3, draw some cards, game ends in a couple turns.
It's also like a really good. I mean, it's a 6 mana 6/6 first of all, so it just is coming down at a reasonable time in the game. It's tough to kill because it has Ward 2, and it has an immediate board presence.
Right.
That doesn't target.
If this were a 4 mana 4/4 or even a 5 mana 5/5, I would be like, this card is amazing. But problem is your top of your aggro curve at the very tip top is 5.
Sure.
Like back in the day with Avacyn and so on, that was
Sure.
your. So if it were just 1 less mana, I would be so excited about this card.
But there's also shenanigans of just reanimating this and resetting your opponent's board, or blinking it multiple times. Your opponent never gets to hold anything.
Yep.
Right. Like I'm gonna hate playing against that card.
I like it.
I mean, I dig the card. Trust me, I want Merfolk to be good, but I'm always just like, you just had to make it that 1 extra mana, didn't you?
I also think that this is just a Wrath. This is just a blue white control card.
Yeah, a blue control card.
All right. So my real number 1.
My real number 1
is, and I don't even know how to pronounce this. I think it's Louis Suis, because I don't know, but that's what it looks like. Maybe Louis Sixes pronounce it weird, but whatever. It's his sacrifice. It's 1 blue for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a legendary creature or pay 2 mana. Counter target activated ability, triggered ability, or non-creature spell. This card does so damn much. Like even if you just pay the full 3 every time, I think some people are looking at this going like, well, I'll have to sack a creature to play it for 1. Like, yeah, that's like the emergency button. Like most of the time, just paying 3 to stop your opponent from basically doing anything on their turn is pretty good. Good enough that this could be played in older formats as well. Like this is a real card. We haven't had even anything resembling Stifle in a while. And now we get Stifle that can also counter a non-creature spell. Like this is really cool.
Yeah, this card is, I mean, A, sort of the price to move. It's very cheap. B, tons and tons of legendary creatures. So you're actually going to have that as an option. It's a worse negate, or it's going to stop like one of the coolest things they're probably trying to do. Their draw card abilities, their planeswalker activations, their land abilities or whatever. This just says no. And I love interesting cards that say no, that aren't just, your counter spells or whatever.
I mean, this is already Disallow, Void Slime.
Yeah.
For 3 mana. Yeah. But then you've also got a fair amount of cheap 1 and even 0 cost legendary creatures in CEDH. And if you really want to, sacrifice something else, you're able to play in the mid game. You're able to go like 4-drop with 1 mana untapped. All right, I don't want this Wrath to resolve, so I guess I will do a Louis Sui sacrifice to prevent it from happening. It's a great escape valve button while also being just a generically fine 3 mana counterspell.
Oh, Louis Sui, let me tell you. and also just a fun thing to say. You know what I mean?
Louis,
Yeah.
Louis Soir.
Louis Soir.
Oh, Louis Soir. That makes sense. That's
yeah.
probably it. Yeah.
Yeah, Void Slime did counter a spell if you wanted to, which was nice. But again, flexibility is everything, and this
Sure.
gives you all the flexibility. And I think that's brilliant. And with that said, that is our top 10 cards from Final Fantasy. Let's move them on the screen right here, right now. You guys can see my list. Excuse me. Power Dragons list, Ruben's top 10. And we want to hear from you about what card we didn't talk about. And we'll select our favorite to talk about next time. But before we go, I want to thank my co-host. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you.
Thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, reminder to everybody, we're going to be playing with cards tomorrow. So you should show up while we're streaming all the Final Fantasy stuff.
That's right.
Check out all our follow-up material.
We're going to post, I'm going to make Evan do editing. We're going to post the ad right here on the screen.
When I get it.
Right?
Right after this show is done.
Right.
So yeah, we're going to move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler, you guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, Blue Sky, do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, as well as Blue Sky, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week. Same time, same place for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.